All right. So starting our first here. Wait for everyone to join in. Okay, our pin is 877-298. Six people have joined us now. Okay. And Janae, I think I remember from experience that you kind of prefer to let others have all the fun, right? Okay. Fair to say? And if you prefer to sit them out, that's okay, no problem.
I'll log in. Give me 1 second.
Oh, okay, no problem. There we go. All right, I think everyone's here. I'm counting seven icons, so let's go ahead and play Family Feud. First question. A broker-dealer designated as a carrying firm would be all expected to do all the following except: A. Perform back-office functions like sending trade confirmations to customers. B. Clear transactions for customer accounts. C. Maintain a lower net capital than non-carrying broker-dealers. Or D. Take custody of customer funds and securities. So based on what you see here, what do you think the best answer? All the following except. Okay, just a couple of seconds, get them in. All right, great. Yes, a carrying firm, basically as the carrying firm, they're doing the heavy lifting. Okay, right? Okay, they are carrying the assets of other firms, customers. They do the trading. They do the clearing on them, so they're also called clearing firms. They are not expected to maintain a lower net capital, though. That's for sure. Because if anything, they should have a higher net capital because, right, they hold the assets. And it would be very good that they are solvent enough to hold other people's assets of other firms. Great. Okay, let's see who did here. All right, Hannah's off to a early lead. Ashley, Amy, and Karina are on the board. And keep remember that the faster you answer, right, the more points you score. Next question. The transfer agent for a corporation is responsible for each of the following except: A. Maintaining records of ownership. B. Acting as an agent to buy and sell sides of a transaction. C. Clearing securities for name. Let's cancel old and issue dividends. Another except question, which means there's 3 trues and a lie. And the transfer agent is not responsible for being the intermediary between the buy and sell sides. Yeah, they do. The transfer agent is responsible for the ownership of records of ownership, keeping the list of shareholders, who owns how many shares, right? And therefore, they're also going to do the mailing, since right they have the names and addresses of shareholders, or if they're held at the brokerage firm, they know which brokerage firm they're held at. They're also there to ensure that securities are issued in the correct name. When they print out a paper stock certificate, it's got their right name on it, and also canceling old security certificates and issuing new ones. That is their role. So who's the intermediary? Okay, that's the clearing corporation, like the DTCC, Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. As clearing corporations, their role here is to match up buyer and seller. That's their role. All right, how do we do here? All right, Ashley moving into lead with Amy, Karina, Hannah, and Alicia. Very good. Let's do our next one. Carrying firms may not: A. Execute transactions for their customers. B. Clear and settle transactions for their customers. C. Mix customer funds and securities with their own. Or D. Send trade confirmations and statements to customers. Right. That's what they're never allowed to. In fact, no firm can do that. Mix customer funds and securities with their own. Now, as the carrying firm, right, the executing firm, they do hold the customers' assets, right, at the firm, right, in their accounts. Okay, so but they're not allowed to commingle customer assets with their own assets. Commingling is prohibited because what happens if the firm goes under? Right, regulators have to step in and liquidate the firm's assets. Well, if they've been commingled with customers' assets, it may be awfully difficult to figure out whose is whose. Right, but they do execute transactions. Right, they're the people they've got the employees on the floor of the stock exchange. They do the clearing and settlement. That means making sure buyer and seller get matched up, and yes, send the trade confirmations and the statements to customers. Now it's the introducing broker dealer, right? It's their customer, and they'll do the face-to-face talking with them and take their orders for them, but they send the order to the carrying firm to actually execute. Karina's 3 in a row. Colby and Janae rise up onto the board. Let's check our next one. It is expected that financial markets A. Have security pricing determined by a board of directors. B. Have transparent pricing for assets. C. Be limited to stocks and bonds and not derivatives like bonds. Or D. Be non-regulated to allow for free trade. All right. You did great, folks. It is expected to have transparent pricing for assets because when they do their financial reports, their balance sheets, for example, right? You got assets on one side and liabilities on the other side, and yes, it's expected to be transparent that they will, right? That they know how to value those assets and report them accurately. Okay. Let's see. I just had someone enter. Sorry, just to notice here.
It's me, Kimberly.
Oh, hi, Kimberly. Yes. Okay.
Sorry, it's been a week. It's been a week.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks, Kimberly. Okay. Do you see you can, if you want to, you can still join in here on this question. We're at like a question 4 out of 15. So,
That's okay. I don't want to hold everybody up. I'm just going to get my bearings for a minute.
okay, no problem. Okay. Well, you can always answer inside your head too, right?
Will do.
Okay. Okay. And as always, of course, anyone, please feel free to ask questions if you need just a little more detail about something. Karina, 4 in a row and moving into the lead. Wow. Next one. An individual who purchases securities for a personal account is called A, a market maker, B, a accredited investor, C, an institutional investor, or D, a retail investor. Yeah, an individual. First off, always an individual, right? Purchases securities for their own accounts is a retail investor. I know it might have sounded more complicated than that, but it wasn't really. Yeah, so you and I are retail investors. That's the term they give for the general public, right? People who buy and trade for their own accounts. Okay, as opposed to say an institutional investor, that means a financial institution. A financial institution, they don't trade for well, they can trade for their customers' accounts or they trade for their own accounts, but usually in big old blocks, right? Because they're big financial firms. A market maker is a dealer in securities, right? So as a dealer, they basically says, I'll buy it at this price and sell at that price. An accredited investor, yes, they do purchase for their own personal accounts, but more precisely, it's someone who meets certain financial criteria and limited private placements under Regulation D are mainly limited to accredited investors. So you could say, yes, they are individuals who purchase securities for their own accounts, but there's more to it than being an accredited investor, right? It means they have certain financial conditions. A retail investor is just someone of the general public trading for their own personal accounts. All right, Amy's moving into the lead. Alicia's moving up too. Oh, it's going to be a horse race here. All right, when investors buy and sell securities to and from one another, the transactions occur A, in the secondary market, B, in the primary market, C, in the over-the-counter markets only, or D, on exchanges only. Trading between investors is the secondary market, right? That refers to trading between investors, buying and selling securities between each other. The secondary market can be on stock exchanges. It can be over the counter, right? Which is which is unlisted securities, right? Not on a stock exchange, in the over the counter dealer market. But it could be either one. So it's not only OTC. It's not only exchanges. And primary market, of course, is the selling of new securities from the issuer to initial investors. Is any part of that wasn't totally sure, you're not totally clear about? Okay. Oh, you selected red, but you guess not? Oh, sorry, was this one or was that for the last one? It says otherwise? Karina, you selected red. Uh-huh. But it's not reading that you selected red. Is that it? Oh, your finger accidentally hit yellow. Could be, right? Hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's one thing. I don't think they let you change your answer, right? Okay, well, hey, next time. It's all practice anyway. All right, Janae moving up though. Anyone who, as part of their business, gives investment advice for compensation must register as A, an agent for the issuer, stockbroker, C, an investment advisor under the Investment Advisors Act, or D, Hey, there you go. Doing great. After all, right? Gives investment advice for compensation. Sure sounds like an investment advisor, right? Doesn't it? Okay. But right. ABC test. A gives advice about securities. B does so as a business. And C gets compensation for the advice. Broker dealers don't get paid for advice, right? If they give advice, it's free. They get paid on execution. An underwriter is a broker-dealer firm that's particularly focused on working with an issuer and helping them to market and sell their securities. And if they do a firm commitment underwriting, right, they buy from the issuer and sell it to their customers at a higher price. All right, lots of people scoring on this. Amy maintains a lead. Pretty close between Karina and Ashley, though. All right, let's check our next one. A stock's market value is directly determined by which of the following? A, vote of the stockholders. B, supply and demand. C, board of directors. Or D, company's financial condition. Okay, the is directly determined by which of the following? It is directly determined by supply and demand. It is a marketplace, right? The stock exchanges are an auction market, and all right, stocks are being auctioned off. What determines the price in an auction? What are people willing to buy it for and willing to sell it for? What makes the price go up? Price goes up when someone outbids the highest bidder. What makes the price go down? When someone undercuts the lowest seller. Now, what influences supply and demand? One of the things that influence, of course, is the company's financial condition, but more of an influence is basically the general expectation of its future financial condition, right? Where it's going rather than where it is. Note that stockholders do not get to vote on market value. Otherwise, otherwise I certainly would. Hey, I vote that it's worth more. Well, that doesn't really help, does it? Janae, well, moving into the lead here with 3 in a row, just 10 points away from Karina. Our next question is, a broker-dealer that executes trades and settles transactions for another broker-dealer is called A, a carrying firm, B, a fully disclosed firm, C, a limited broker-dealer, or D, an introducing. Nice, yes. They're the carrying firm, yes. For example, I've seen plenty of advertisements, right, for a firm, and in the fine, tiny print below, it says security services provided by LPL Financial. So LPL might be their carrying firm in this case. So this company goes out, they work with their customers and they get them as their client, but when they need to execute trades, they'll use a company like LPL Financial to actually do all the heavy lifting, execute the trades, hold the assets at the firm, issue things like statements and confirmations. An introducing firm is also known as a fully disclosed firm. That's also what they're called. So B and D, or blue and green, basically mean the same thing, so they cancel each other out. I don't know of anything called the limited broker dealer. Not something I've ever heard of. Okay, Karina's back in the lead. A pretty close one, but 3 in a row. All the following would be secondary market transactions except A. Securities bought and sold on the NYSE. B. Securities sold in both the OTC and NYSE. C. Securities sold to the public by the issuer. D. Securities bought and sold on the OTC. All right, some difference of opinion on this one. All right, all the following are secondary market transactions except, which means we have to find that one that's not secondary market, not traded between investors. In that case, it would be securities sold by the issuer, which makes it primary market. Yes, so choice C would be primary market, not secondary market. All the others, whether they're traded over the counter or traded on a stock exchange, that's all secondary market, which is trading between investors, secondhand securities. Okay, and it's Janae who got that and advanced the lead. Next question. A corporation enlists the services of a transfer agent who would be expected to handle all the following except A. Registering the corporation's securities with the state. Maintaining the records of shareholder ownership. C. Canceling old certificates and issuing new ones. D. Replacing lost or destroyed stocks. Okay, right. All the following except. Now remember, the role of the transfer agent is keeping the list of shareholders. Right? Who owns how many shares? Since they know who the shareholders are, they'll do the like mailing annual reports, mailing dividend checks. That's the role of the transfer agent too. So yes, they do maintain records. They do cancel old and issue new stock certificates, and they do replace lost or destroyed stock certificates. That is their role. Who registers the corporation with the state? Well, that could be the issuer themselves, or it could be the underwriter acting on behalf of the issuer. But whoever does basically fills out the paperwork with each and every state that they're going to register in. Oh, it's Alicia who got that one. Okay. And our next one, a clearing corporation agent or depository for securities transactions. A, must be a broker-dealer. B, can never be a corporation. C, can be a commercial bank. D, can be a bank or corporation only if they are also a broker. Can be a commercial bank, exactly, yes, as a clearing corporation, though they don't have to be a broker-dealer, they will be a corporation. In fact, the DTCC, Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, okay, and can be a bank, but also if they're a broker, no, not necessarily, but it can be a commercial bank to do the depository and trading transactions. Amy moves up to second place. All right, our next one is a market in which exchange-listed securities are traded in the over-the-counter OTC market would be best described as A, the fourth market, B, the second market, C, the third market, or D, the first market. Let me see. The exchange listed securities traded over the counter market, right? That is called the third market. So first market plus second market is third market. The first market refers to trading exchange listed securities on a stock exchange. The second market refers to trading of unlisted securities in the over the counter market, the dealer market. And the third market is trading of exchange listed securities, but traded away from the stock exchange in the OTC market. That's what this refers to. So, yeah, I can understand if you pick second market, but it's exchange listed securities in the over the counter market. That's third market. Fourth market is the trading of direct electronic trading between financial institutions using computerized networks called electronic communication networks, or ECNs. Okay, Karina's in second place now. All the following are associated with being a carrying firm except A. Accept investment funds. B. Accept investment securities. C. Being a fully disclosed firm. Or D. Including their customers. Good, right. Okay, they'll do all the following things, right? They accept funds, they accept securities, and clear the transactions, right? Executing buy and sell orders. But it's the fully disclosed firm that's also called the introducing broker dealer, who introduces their customers to the carrying firm to actually do all the transactions and the okay behind another all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Okay, Janae maintains the lead. Next question is: when shares are held in street name, this refers to the shares being A. Restricted and non-transferable. B. Held in the name of the broker dealer for the benefit of the owner. C. Held at the transfer agent for the benefit. D. Allowed to be sold only at the exchange where they were initially released. Great job. Yes. When shares are held in street name, that means that when people hold their investments in their accounts at the broker dealer, that's the broker dealer is registered as holding the shares. In street name is how they describe it. Okay, right. Now they do it for the beneficial owner. So the customer is the beneficial owner, which means it's their customer's property. They're just the named holding of those as name who holds it. Now the transfer agent, who has the list of shareholders, they see the shares are held in street name, which means they're held at I don't know, Smith Barney, Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab, Ameritrade, whoever it is. So they do the mailing to the broker dealer firm, and the broker dealer forwards the mail to the customer. And I think that was our last question. So let's see who's on the podium. In third place with bronze medals, it's Amy. In second place, silver medalist is Karina. And first place, gold medal and Olympic champion, Hey. All right, fabulous work, everybody. Okay, good. So this is about this largely had to do with primary and secondary markets. Is there any part of that you maybe a little more detail about? I'd like to ask about, just to be sure. Okay. I'm going to pause the recording here. All right, so welcome back to our next section here, and our next section is on self-regulatory organization, or SRO, rules. Now, remember, self-regulatory organization is authorized by the SEC to oversee and police the industry. So it's the way the industry says we will oversee ourselves, so the government doesn't have to do it for us. So now this came as an amendment to the to the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. So as they figured that the stock exchanges, which by the way are also self-regulatory organizations, since they're centralized in one location, can have easy oversight over broker-dealer firms and about issuers and companies. But they thought that the over-the-counter market, the dealer market, was decentralized, and it was too decentralized, too all over the place to be able to effectively regulate. So there was an amendment to the the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which allowed for the establishment of self-regulatory organizations, so that companies would oversee themselves rather than having the government do it for them. So they would say, since it's the over-the-counter market and was all decentralized and all over the place, they said that everyone who's going to be in this business, pretty much everyone anyway, has to be a member of the self-regulatory organization and agree to abide by its rules and abide by its qualifications and its callings, and also, by the way, abide by any penalties for breaking self-regulatory organization rules. Now, the original SRO that was established under the Maloney Act of 1938, that was the amendment, was originally the National Association of Securities Dealers, NASD. So they have oversight over the over-the-counter market, the OTC market, regulating the broker-dealer firms that were acting as market makers. Now, in 2007, the NASD merged with the regulatory arm of the New York Stock Exchange to form the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA. So that was a merger in 2007. So the rules, NASD rules, merged with NYSE rules. Much of the rules were the same, except it had to do with the more like the mechanical differences between trading on the New York Stock Exchange versus trading over the counter and on the in the over the counter market, overseen by the NASD. But there's still other self-regulatory organizations as well. The other ones you may need to know about include the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, MSRB. That's the primary regulator for the municipal bond industry. All right, so they have oversight not over municipalities, over the municipal governments, over companies that provide services or consulting or market or sell municipal bond products, municipal security products. Also, now for exchange listed options, right, standardized options is overseen by the Chicago Board of Options Exchange. So they're based in Chicago, right? That's where the floor of the options exchange is located, and they're the senior self-regulatory organization for listed options, standardized options. All the stock exchanges also are considered self-regulatory organizations. New York Stock Exchange, American Stock Exchange, Chicago Stock Exchange, Boston Stock Exchange, Philadelphia. There's a number of stock exchanges. But still, for the most part, when we talk about stock exchanges, we're mainly referring to the New York Stock Exchange. Anyway, all of these are self-regulatory organizations, and they have their assorted rules. Now, of course, this is a test. FINRA put this test together. A regulator put this test together, and you being a member of FINRA, or working for a FINRA member firm, you're going to be expected to know, learn, and live these FINRA rules. All right, so let's take a look first at the FINRA rules specifically. So FINRA rules say specifically, first off, as a registered representative, broker-dealer firms, right, are required to register with FINRA. That's what it means by a registered representative. You will represent a firm, and you are registered with FINRA, so they know who you are and they know your name, okay, and that which licenses you've passed. Now, who does need to be registered? Not all employees of a broker-dealer firm. Basically, this though: if someone whose job involves taking customer orders, or involves handling cash or securities, or supervise people who do, or train people who do, yeah, they're going to have to be registered. So our sales representatives, operating officers, traders, all of them have to be registered. Who does not have to be registered? Let's say, for example, a filing clerk, okay, a customer service representative, all right, who doesn't actually take trades or give advice or make any kind of recommendations. An admin assistant, HR department, right? They don't have to register. Be cautious though. Sometimes they throw things like someone who's like an admin assistant who occasionally takes customer orders when the registered rep is away, right? Or the security guard at 3 a.m. who takes phone calls when nobody's around and takes customer orders. If they take customer orders, they must be registered, right? It'd be a violation to take customer orders without being registered. Now, we know the test that they have here, of course, is the one we're studying for, is the Securities Industry Essentials exam. Now, this test does not require sponsorship by a broker-dealer. Now, remember, this test was originally one test, a Series 6 or Series 7 test, and you had to be sponsored to take the test. Sponsored means hired by a broker-dealer firm. Well, the SIE does not require sponsorship. Anybody over 18 can take the SIE test. Right? And they can just walk in cold, hopefully attended a class or something, that they're prepared for it. All right, but when someone, if they take and pass the SIE, they're not hired by a broker dealer firm, but they can go to one and say, "Hey, I've already passed the test, so I must be pretty good at this." So they have, once they pass, they have 4 years now to get a job with a broker dealer firm. So their SIE passing is valid for 4 years. Now, if 4 years goes by and they have not gotten a job and become registered at a broker dealer firm, all right, then it expires and they'll have to take the test over again. All right, but once you finish your SIE, then of course after that you're going to take your top-up exam, which is going to be your Series 6 or Series 7. Okay, depending on the job you need. There are other series exams too, depending on the job, but those are going to be the primary ones. Okay, most firms now, at least the ones I've talked to, are looking for will have the Series 7. Now, to fill out your application, there's also, again, paperwork, and the standardized form is called Form U4. Form U4 is filled out by a broker dealer on behalf of the employees, and that's what you fill out to become registered, right? To become registered with FINRA. So it's going to have things like, it's going to ask for things like your 10-year employment history, including, by the way, accounting for gaps in employment. If you are still in school or if you are in transition, right, that's going to be included in there. So you can fill in the gaps on there. 5 years of residence history, any outside business activities. That means any job or any business you're involved in that they want to know about. Okay, they want to make sure they don't create conflicts of interest. Yes, if there's a criminal record or civil proceedings, debt negotiations, customer complaints that have been around, terminations due to improper behavior, attestation of past or future fingerprinting. Now, when I filled out my U4 form, I was brand new to the industry, so happily I did not have a criminal record or judicial proceedings working against me. Okay. Oh, here's the question. It says, so on the test, to take the SIE, you need to be sponsored? No, you do not. Okay, so you're able to take the SIE. When we have the chance in the lab, we're going to have some people from firms come and talk in, give a little talk and tell you what it's like to work there and what they're hiring for. No, you do not need to be in the sponsored. And by the way, I can tell you from all that they tell me, you get a leg up the fact that you took the SIE and you passed, because they know what you went through to get this. So if you pass that test, they know you are serious. Right? And besides which, since you've already passed that part of the test, you've probably saved them thousands of dollars, right? In having to hire you and sponsor you to take the test. Yes, you do need to be sponsored for the Series 6 or Series 7. That's known as the top-off test. Yeah, for that one, you have to be hired by a broker-dealer. Do I know what the pass rate is? If you mean by what score you need is 70%, but if you mean like how many people pass, I've actually had a hard time finding that. I've searched, and I think FINRA tells you, I think they keep a pretty tight lid on it, but I think it's somewhere like 70-75% pass on their first try. That's best of my recollection, which, by the way, may be a very poor recollection. Okay, right. But remember, most of them haven't had the chance to work with me yet. So, okay. Anna, was that your question? Okay, thanks. You bet. Okay. Now, there are some things that, of course, are statutory disqualifications. It mentions here, like, okay, if you amend your U4 form, for example, right, it has to be within 30 days, and the event, if caused may statutory qualification, update must be in 10 days. So what results in statutory disqualification? What's like an automatic no? Okay. First off, if you lied on your form, I'm sure that's no surprise, or you didn't fill it out correctly, that's good for statutory disqualification. I'll mention some others here, and these are called reportable events. So basically, if you're involved in the industry, regulators want to keep up to date on you. So there are things, if you have any changes in your status, a new job, a new address, a new phone number, a new email, you're supposed to let regulators know. They should know them, promptly, but within no more than 30 days. So basically, you have 30 days to update. Now, what are things that are considered reportable? These are things that, basically bad things have happened. And well, regulators want to know about that. So these are just sort of a partial list of this. Found to have violated securities laws. Okay, that is something they want to know. Subject of a customer complaint alleging theft or misappropriation or forgery. Those are pretty serious. Named as a defendant or respondent alleging violations of securities laws. Denied registration, expelled or suspended or disciplined by a self-regulatory organization. Indicted, convicted, or plead guilty to any criminal offense except misdemeanor traffic, right? But felony DUIs. And by the way, they always reminded me, right, when I worked at the firm, if they had a little, little beer party or something, there was always that reminder, is that a felony DUI in Arizona, they're felony DUIs. There goes your job. There goes your license. The question is the updating status for registered rep? Yes, it is. Yes. Okay. Anyway, all these things, right, associated with an entity that was suspended or settled or had its registration denied. If you ever saw the movie Boiler Room, right, and by the way, if you haven't seen it, go see it. But despite best efforts, those operations exist, and even if they're shut down, those involved just scatter and pop up someplace else. So being associated with that is also can be a reportable event anyway. Being a respondent in a securities or commodities complaint that was settled for $15,000, subject to statutory disqualification, disciplinary actions by the firm involving suspension, termination, withholding commissions, or fines of more than $2,500, or any others discipline in manner that would have significant limitations. Basically, that's a catch-all right there. But basically, if something major and bad has happened, regulators want to know about it, and they want to know within 30 days. Okay. The database, FINRA's database on registered representatives and firms is known as the Central Registration Depository, the CRD, but since it's done online, it's sometimes called Web CRD. All right, and that is the central database. So when you fill out your U4 form, the information goes into the CRD, and anything that's updated, right, must be updated with the CRD within 30 days. Some of that information is then translated and available through BrokerCheck. BrokerCheck is a service that FINRA offers to the public that gives people the chance to look up information about a broker-dealer firm and about the registered representatives who work there, see if they really want to work with them. So if they look you up on BrokerCheck, they'll find it should be industry employment history, not outside the industry. The registrations or license that you currently have, the states in which you're registered, any complaints or disciplinary records. So yes, if you have been censured by FINRA, yes, it's going to show up on your CRD and people can look it up. Any outside business activities, remember you have to be reported to your firm, and they report that in turn to FINRA. And any terminated information remains for 10 years. Now, it's been more than 10 years since I was a registered rep, so okay, so my my information is gone, right? If you try and look me up, there's nothing there. But before I did, okay, I did look myself up on BrokerCheck, and I'm happy to say I've got a good, clean record. Okay, define what U4 is. Okay, U4 is the standardized form to become registered with a broker-dealer firm, to become a registered representative. There is another one, by the way, it's called Form U10. So there's a Form U4 and a Form U10. Don't worry about the difference between them. Just recognize them if you see them, that's a standardized form. I was doing it just reminded me, but I was doing some practice questions for one of the companies I work for. And I thought it's like one of those, which of the following is a form to fill out to become registered? And I chose one of them as I called it Form U238. Are you familiar with what U238 is? It's an isotope of uranium. So I put that on there. So that's just me being a smart aleck, I guess. Thanks, Karina. Okay. I was hoping somebody would virtually laugh at that. Okay, so now when customers open their new accounts, right, one of the things that the firms have to provide is the BrokerCheck brochure, which will give the phone number and website address, right, to look up things on BrokerCheck. So you can call them up, ask questions, or you can do it online. Okay. Any broker-dealer website has to have a link to a BrokerCheck. So if I looked at the firm I have my account with, yeah, if I scroll down a little bit, there is a thing right kind of center bottom that says BrokerCheck. Click that link and it goes to the FINRA's website. Okay, so people can look that up. Okay. What else needs to be known for registered persons? Outside business activities. Now remember, before you can have any kind of job outside the one you have at a broker-dealer, for which you'll be compensated, and some things, by the way, like that aren't actually compensated, like you're going to be on the board of directors of the HOA or something, right? That needs to be reported to as a business activity. Anyway, they do that to make sure that there's no conflicts of interest, okay, and things like that. So before you can take another job outside the one you have, you must notify your employer in writing about the proposed outside business activity or job. Firms cannot actually prevent you, right, from going and getting a job or making a living, but they can allow or disallow, which means that your boss can say either you work here or you work there, but not both. Real life examples where I used to work, they would not allow outside employment in anything related to finances. Okay, in case I messed up or something, it doesn't want them to look bad on them. So now, if I wanted to work as a bartender nights and weekends, I'm sure they would fine with it. They just had to follow company procedure. All right, now firms must also maintain a fidelity bond. A fidelity bond is basically insurance that covers an employee's misdeeds, which basically means things like theft and embezzlement. So if somebody's got their sticky fingers in the till, yes, the fidelity bond will cover that. That does not include, by the way, market losses. That's just, if market losses, that's just how things go sometimes. All right, now to maintain your registration, you got to complete your continuing education. So I'm afraid you're not done by at the Prometric Center once you've taken your SIE, your top-off test, your state registration, your Series 63. You got to keep coming back for your continuing ed. Now the rules on continuing ed just changed. There was a thing called regulatory element. Okay, that's one of the types, and that's done by FINRA. So FINRA says you basically have to take this training. It used to be you took your training every 3 years. You're continuing ed every 3 years. This year the rule just changed. Now you take your continuing ed annually, and you have to complete it by December 31st. Because if you don't, if you don't complete your continuing ed on time, then your license goes inactive. If your license is inactive, you can't get paid for things that require an active license. So your paycheck depends on completing your continuing ed. All right, now if you go to continuing ed, it's easy enough. You'll go to the Prometric Center, you'll read material or you'll watch videos, and then you'll answer questions about what you read or saw. And if you answer correctly, you move on to the next section. If you answer incorrectly, you repeat until you get it correct. Nobody fails continuing ed. You just got to get through it. All right. Also, now each firm is also have to have its own element, right? Each firm will come up with a training program for its employees, its associated persons, about anything about what they want you to know. But also, by the way, you can use this for your benefit too, right? If there's something that maybe there's something that you'd like to learn about, ask your manager, ask your training department if they have any firm element continuing ed that maybe you can be an enhancement to your own career. In addition, firms must hold an annual compliance meeting. This is an all hands on deck meeting with everybody who's registered to handle whatever topic that FINRA wants to talk about this year. And so whatever it is they're going to talk about, they're going to have a big meeting. We used to hold it in the cafeteria, okay, because that was the only place big enough to hold everybody there. And now they do allow them now, especially now in COVID world or post-COVID world, to do it remotely, right? You can do probably a Zoom meeting or something. They can be pre-recorded. You watch the videos later, but attendance will be taken. It is a mandatory meeting, and it must be interactive. You have to have the ability to ask questions, if not at or at least after the presentation. So there will be a Q&A after that. Now, when someone leaves the industry, when they leave their job, then their former employer files Form U5. So Form U4 gets you in the door, and Form U5 when it's time to say bye-bye. Okay, so they also have to update within 30 days the status that someone no longer associated with this firm. The person who's no longer there, right? They say terminated, but that sounds like fired. Whether it's voluntary or involuntary, they file Form U5 and they give the copy to the former employee. And they'll have to file another Form U4 to get stated with another firm. So if they leave a firm and go someplace else, got to file a new Form U4. So when someone leaves the firm, their registration goes inactive, It's still a valid registration, though, and it's still valid for 2 years. Now, if 2 years goes by and you have not found another job at another broker-dealer, then your license expires. If your license expires, then you have the fun and privilege of taking this test all over again. I know how much you're looking forward to it. Now, however, having said that, there's something new. This came into effect in 2020. FINRA introduced something called the Maintaining Qualifications Program, or MQP. In this program, if somebody enrolls in it, they have to take the step to enroll, and they meet the requirements, which means they continue to take their annual continuing education requirements. They can keep their license in an inactive status, but still valid for 5 years. So they got 5 years to get another job at another firm. Okay, they just have to complete the regulatory element continuing ed. So if you meet the requirement, sign up for it, enroll in it, and meet the requirements, you can keep your license valid but inactive now for 5 years. And if 5 years goes by, you can take the test all over again. Now, about customer complaints. Now, how about that, right? Because, well, you may find this surprising, but people don't always seem to have a sense of humor when it comes to their dealing with their money. So any complaint, now to be a complaint specifically, see, I worked at a call center for 8.5 years. Now, have any of you ever gotten a call from someone that goes, "I got a problem with you people"? Does that sound familiar at all? Yeah, okay. Glad you like that, Amy. Okay. Yeah, right? Who hasn't all day, right? No kidding. All right. In fact, I used to call the the main number, right? The main toll-free number. I called it the you people line. All right. So, is that a complaint according to FINRA? No. Right? To be a complaint must be in writing, although email counts. All right. And this written complaint must be promptly forwarded to a supervisor, to a principal, right? Who has to address that complaint. Now, if they can address that complaint and deal with it, all well and good. And if they can't, well, that's what FINRA Code of Arbitration is for. All right, now broker-dealers report to FINRA for felonies, claims of $15,000 of an associated person, or $25,000 if the complaint is specifically against the broker-dealer. And any complaint must be kept on file for 4 years at the Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction, OSJ. The OSJ is a place that's part of the management structure of a broker-dealer firm, and it's a location specifically defined where principals can operate on a very high level. So what goes on there includes like order entry. I don't know where people take their orders. I mean where those orders like wired into the stock exchange, right, or market making activity. It's where also principals approve new accounts, right? Approve retail communication, right, which is sales, literature, and advertising. Okay. What do they do with the complaint at the OSJ? It has to be addressed to a supervisor immediately, who must then address the complaint. Okay. And by the way, if it is a written complaint, they have to address it also in writing to the address on file. Is it out to the public? No, it is not. Although it's not on this slide here, but member firms do have to keep records of their complaints and submit their complaints to FINRA on a quarterly basis. FINRA might be looking for patterns, for example. So no, it's not out to the public. Okay. All right. Now, as I mentioned, if a complaint can be filed, it can be resolved okay. If it can't be, FINRA's Code of Arbitration is specifically for handling money disputes. Okay. According to FINRA, any FINRA member or associated person, remember that will be you as an associated person, any money disputes must be handled by binding arbitration. So you agree, right, as part of your U4 form, you agree that you'll handle any dispute by arbitration rather than litigation, right, rather than filing lawsuits in court. Arbitration is considered to be a faster, more efficient, more effective way, less expensive way than handling disputes rather than hiring lawyers and filing lawsuits in courts. Now, customers, right, they're not members of FINRA, right? They're part of the public. So they're not required specifically to file to have an arbitration agreement or go to arbitration. But when they open their accounts, they do typically initial a pre-dispute clause. So they agree ahead of time that they'll handle any money disputes through arbitration rather than litigation. Now you say, well, what if customers don't want to do that? All right, in the real world, maybe they don't want to do that, but on the other hand, maybe the broker dealer firm doesn't want to open an account with them either. Okay, so they might not open the account. Now there is another process that goes before arbitration called mediation. See, in arbitration, there's any complaint, it goes before an arbitration panel. There are usually 3 on the panel. It's majority rule, so you hope that 2 out of the 3 find in your favor. If anyone in the dispute, plaintiff or defendant, is a member of the public or is a customer, then 2 out of the 3 on the panel must also be public arbitrators, right? Not from the industry. The third one can be from the industry. So you hope that 2 out of the 3 find in your favor, and arbitration is binding, which means whatever the arbitration panel says goes. There is no appeals process under Code of Arbitration. So, right, you really hope that it goes through, okay? No appeal on it. Whatever they say, that's the final word. Before arbitration, though, there is a voluntary process called mediation. In this case, FINRA would bring in a trained third-party negotiator, a mediator, who would work with either side, hear what their grievances are, and see if they can find a mutually beneficial arrangement. Customer says, hey, you messed up my trade, right? I got a bad execution, and as a result, I lost money. So you owe me money. And the firm says, we handle your order appropriately. We handled it according to regulations. Everything went according to plan. We don't owe you anything. So anyway, they can't agree on it. They can go to mediation first, bring in a mediator to see if they can settle a dispute that way. It is voluntary. So if they can find a resolution, it may go to arbitration anytime, and either side can withdraw from the mediation process with a written notice to the mediator. Okay, so that's the way it is instead of having a decision imposed by the arbitration panel. All right, now for FINRA violations, however, that's FINRA's Code of Procedure. Code of Procedure, COP, COP. If somebody breaks the rules, what are the cops going to do? This is for violations of FINRA's Conduct Code. Conduct Code is the way that is FINRA's rules on dealing with the public, right? In where they're fair and equitable. And if somebody's violated Conduct Code, well, the Code of Procedure calls for meting out penalties. All right, so first off, if there's a complaint and it seems to be valid, it goes before the Office of Hearing Officers, OHO, and it starts with a hearing panel. The hearing panel will hear the case, right, either side, and then make a decision. Now, with Code of Procedure, there is an appeals process. The first level of appeal is to the National Adjudicatory Council, the NAC. Let me write that out here, the NAC. The NAC is effective, that's the rulemaking board for FINRA. So they're going to go and see they're the first level of appeals. Now, if that's the case, then they can appeal that to the SEC, and then it can be appealed to a federal court. Now, if someone does break the rules, what penalties for Code of Procedure includes how to mete out penalties for that, and what can FINRA do? The lightest penalty is a censure. And a censure is basically a whack on the knuckles with a ruler and a stern warning not to do it again. But if someone is censured by FINRA, it's going to show up in your record. Someone looks you up on broker check, they'll see if you were censured by FINRA. FINRA also has the authority to temporarily suspend somebody's registration or permanently revoke registration or even expel them from the industry, barred and suspended from association. That's the biggest penalty. That means for the rest of your life, you cannot be on the payroll of any FINRA member firm in any capacity, right? Not as a broker-dealer, not as a filing clerk, not as a security guard, nothing. Also, FINRA can hit you where it hurts, in the wallet. They have the authority to levy fines, and there are no limits on fine amounts. Every once in a while, I see something in my news that says some firm has been fined a couple $1 million for violating FINRA's Conduct Code. So the 4 FINRA codes, by the way, okay. First one, Uniform Practice Code, right, or UPC. This is the standards for how firms deal with each other, right? So these set up rules like, for example, like clearing and settlement. Like there's 2 business day settlement under Uniform Practice Code. When a firm does a trade with another firm, they're supposed to compare notes on it, right? Compare the confirmations on it. and make sure it matches up. And if it doesn't match up, there's a thing called the don't know procedure, or DK the trade, right? And they say that, they got 40 minutes to fix that. That's under Uniform Practice Code. Okay, Code of Conduct is how FINRA deals, right? Member firms deal with the public in ways that FINRA says are fair and equitable. Violating conduct code is pretty serious. And when it's done that, right, then it goes to Code of Procedure, COP, right? By the way, they're not real cops. So, okay, so the metaphor ends there. They don't carry badges. They can't arrest anybody. Okay, no, they have no criminal prosecution. Now, FINRA may, for example, if they see something, they might, let's say, refer evidence, right, to like the state attorney general or something like that, who could decide whether to prosecute. By the way, the SEC also very broad powers of investigation of a complaint, but no power of prosecution. They cannot prosecute. They cannot arrest. They can give evidence to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department can decide whether or not to prosecute. And then again, there's Code of Arbitration, which is for handling money disputes. Okay, minor complaints. On a minor complaint, the penalty is a censure or a $2,500 fine. Then there's a thing called acceptance, waiver, and consent, AWC, which basically says the defendant says, well, I don't know, I guess I did it or something. At least they're not disputing it. So they will accept the findings, waive their rights to hearing, and consent to the penalty. So it basically says, I did it. Or maybe it's like a no contest penalty. Okay. FINRA also has rules. Okay. Oh goodness, I was just noticing the time here. It's like I should have given you a break by this time. Okay. Let me see how much more we have here. Okay, yeah, there's a fair amount to go on here. So why don't we go ahead? I'm sorry, I should have given you a break a little while ago. So let's go ahead and take our break now before we talk about communication rules. So let's go ahead and break and return at 25 past the hour. Okay. And as always, of course, if you have, we'd like me to go back to a previous slide, or if you want to ask a question, you can type it in the chat, or you can unmute and ask, and I'll reply to you in kind. All right. See you in a few minutes. Okay. So let's pick up where we left off. We're talking about communication. So this is FINRA's rules regarding communication and the classifications that they have. They put things in different categories. I'm sorry. Okay, one category is correspondence. Now correspondence is mostly one-on-one communication, right? An individual letter or email or fax or text or whatever. But it can be to more than one person. The definition of correspondence is any communication, written or electronic, that goes to no more than 25 existing, customers or prospective customers in a 30-day period. So it's 25 or fewer, which could also, by the way, could be fewer than 26. But watch out for the wording. Remember, sometimes I try to trick you with the wording. All right. Correspondence does not need to be filed with FINRA. They really don't want a copy of every email or letter you send to somebody. And firms will decide for themselves how they'll oversee correspondence, called house rules, right, with their own internal rules. So they can use post-use principal review, which means after it's been sent out, it can later on be reviewed by a principal and approved, but afterwards, after it's done. Now, in real life example, but I was never a principal. I was, however, appointed by a principal, by my manager, to be authorized to read and reply to emails that were written by my coworkers. So if my coworker, they reply to an email, well, the email went to my queue first, and I would look it over and I'd review it for accuracy, and yes, spelling and grammar count. And if it was good, I'd send it on its way. And if it wasn't good, I'd send it back. Okay, so that's what I would do that. Okay, now when it goes to more than 25 people in a 30-day period, then it's called retail communication. So that's right, more than 25 or 26 or more in a 30-day period is now called retail communication. Now, retail communication does generally need to be filed with FINRA, and for the most part, with some exceptions to it, file with FINRA within 10 days after first use, not before, for the most part. Some exceptions, though. 10 days, so 10 days after they publish a research report or an ad runs on TV, FINRA gets a copy of that. Now, retail communication does need to be reviewed and approved by a principal, by a supervisor, prior to its use, and then filed with FINRA mostly 10 days after. Now, exception to that, first off, if a company is new, if it's in its first year of operations, then it files its retail communications 10 days before first use. If they've been in trouble with FINRA before, 10 days prior to use, or it's about the proprietary ranking of mutual funds. So they have their own mutual fund ranking system or something. That has to be filed with FINRA 10 days before first use. Now, retail communication is going to be divided into two categories as advertising and sales literature. And the difference between them, the advertising and sales lit, is a matter of who can control who sees it. See, with sales literature, the firm knows who controls it because they know who they hand it to, or mail it to, or fax it to, or email it to, or whatever to. With advertising, they have no control over who sees it because it's on TV, on the radio, in a newspaper, a magazine, a billboard, right? Skywriting, whatever it is. Okay, like a firm's public website is advertising because anybody can see it. The password protected website is sales literature because they can control who sees it. They may not do any kind of recommendations in advertising because remember, recommendations have to be suitable to the person you recommend it to. Well, since no, they advertise anybody because they have no control who sees it, so there's no way to know if it's suitable to everybody or not, and it probably isn't. So no recommendations in advertising, but they can with sales literature. Okay, now retail communication is for the general public, what they call retail investors. For a professional audience would be institutional communication. Now that means financial institutions in the business of handling money, such as a bank or a credit union or an insurance company or another broker-dealer or an investment company like a mutual fund or an investment advisor, a pension plan that manages at least $1 million of employee assets, or a government body. So that's for a professional audience. So regulators figure that professionals can take care of themselves. They want to make sure that the general public, who may not be all that sophisticated, isn't being misled, being taken advantage of, being inundated with jargon, things like that. So institutional communication does not need to be filed with FINRA and can be subject to post-principal principal review. So a principal can review it afterwards, presuming the person who authored it has been given proper training. By the way, if they think there's a reasonable chance that a communication intended for a professional audience could be seen by the public, classify it as retail communication. A public appearance is defined as an unscripted appearance, right? And things like being on a discussion panel, right? A TV interview, something like that. Being in an internet chat room, right? Where there's no pre-planned statements or whatever they'll talk about. Does not need to be filed with FINRA. Just follow along with companies' policies and procedures. Oh, so now correspondence, as I got to before, is correspondence received from customers have to be approved by the firm, but FINRA allows them to basically do post-use review. It is possible, by the way, that FINRA inspectors can come down and pull up like a random sampling of correspondence. They don't have to file with FINRA, but FINRA can come around and pick up a random sample of that and go through it. Correspondence, like most things from FINRA, most FINRA documents have to be kept for 3 years. Okay, so 3 years since the last time they were used. All right, using FINRA name, by the way, first off, you use FINRA's name, like or FINRA, or the New York Stock Exchange, or the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. All you can say is member of, member SIPC, member New York Stock Exchange, member FINRA, not approved by, endorsed by, guaranteed by, anything like that. If they put the FINRA name on the website, the font must be smaller than the firm's own font. And if they do have it, they have to hyperlink it to finra.org. All right, no predictions or projections. You cannot be anything like, well, here's what you could make, or here's what you might make on this, right? And if they do use, let's say, past history, there has to be a disclaimer. I'm sure you've seen something like this, right? Past performance does not guarantee future results, or something to that effect. Okay, which is true, by the way. Okay. What about advertising using testimonials, right? Getting a customer who says, oh, these guys have been great and everybody should use them. Testimonials are okay as long as if there's compensated for the disclosure for the testimonial, again, more than $100 must be disclosed. So you probably see things like paid testimonial. Under FINRA conduct rules, there is a gift rule. All right, FINRA will make sure if you want any firms or registered reps may not give or receive a gift more than $100 per person per year in connection with the business. FINRA wants to make sure that a token of appreciation, just a nice way to say thank you, is just that, and not so much that it could curry favor or create conflicts of interest. So the limit is $100 per person per year if it's in connection with the business. Now, if I know another rep outside, right outside where we work, and we just know each other, does that mean you couldn't get me a PlayStation 5 as a birthday present? Not that I'm hinting. Okay. No, that's okay because it's not in connection with the business. What if they're trying to hire some hotshot registered rep, get them to join their firm, take them out to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and the bill comes to $300? Have they violated the gift rule? No, because that is a business expense. Okay, so occasional business entertainment, occasional fine dining, or event like concert or sporting event tickets, okay, does not follow the $100 rule. It's not considered a gift if you are there along with them. That's considered marketing expense. Right? As long as it's not excessive. I'm not sure what they mean by excessive, but get a charter jet for everyone to go to Hawaii, maybe that's a little over the top. Okay, so if you want to, let's say you want to thank your top 20 customers for being such great customers for you, and you want to get them tickets to a basketball game, that's fine. Just don't spend more than $100 on those tickets. But if you invite your top 20 customers to a skybox at the stadium where you are there along with them, that's not a gift anymore. That's a marketing expense, right? You're schmoozing your top clients. Okay. Another thing, by the way, that does not fall under this rule is called reminder advertising. Okay, that's when you give something with logo items on it, right? If it's got company logo on it, it's advertising, not a gift. So pens and polo shirts, water bottles, mouse pads, refrigerator magnets. What about a $300 briefcase? If it's got a company logo on it, it's marketing. Okay. Now, non-cash compensation generally not allowed. Like, for example, okay, mutual fund sponsor, right? Distributor says all-inclusive vacation. Can't really do that. Question between business or marketing expense, is there a difference between them? I don't know of any real difference between them. I consider it to be a business marketing. It's all the same. To me, it's the same. It's just the idea that it's, if you're there with them, it's not a gift, it's marketing. Okay. If they want to hold a seminar, an educational seminar at a certain place, they can pay for the travel and accommodation, but only for the registered rep, not for a spouse. So if the spouse wants to go, they're kind of on their own for that. Okay, now they can pay another firms to do part-time work, but there must be a written agreement. The work compensation has to be paid. It has to be approved by a principal at both firms. And again, records, like I said, most records have to be kept for 3 years. It is not permitted to guarantee customers against loss or guarantee any type of rate of return, and especially not guarantee a capital gain. Capital gains are trading profits. It's like saying you can predict in the future what someone else is willing to pay for a security today. And you can't go things like, I am so confident in this record. If you lose money, I'll buy it back from you at this price. Or the next 10 trades are free. Anything like that. No, whatever happens, happens, basically. So you cannot guarantee against losses or guarantee any rate of return. Now, saying you just invested in a treasury bond, guaranteed principal and interest by the US government is fine. You're not making the guarantee. The government makes the guarantee. Generally speaking, you cannot share in profits or losses with a customer. That's like having a joint account with one of your customers. It can be okay if, well, immediate family, for example, who also happen to be your customers, or friends who happen to be your customers, and then it can be allowed. It has to be approved in writing by a principal at the firm and by the customer too. There also has to be a proportion sharing arrangement. So you can only profit in the gains or deduct the losses to the extent of your contribution, right? You put in 40%, you get 40% of the profits or write off 40% of the losses. And also, generally, it is not permitted to borrow money from or lend money to a customer. I'm talking about making like a personal loan. Marginal loans are different. But making a personal loan, again, possibly creating conflicts of interest, make sure that doesn't happen. But if you have friends and family who also happen to be your customers, an existing personal or professional relationship, something other than customer and reg rep, then it can be allowed, but it has to be approved again in writing by a principal at the firm following company procedures. The terms and conditions of the loan has to be in writing, and that has to be kept on file at the broker dealer for 3 years until the loan is paid off, or 3 years from the date that the employee leaves the firm, whichever comes first. Okay. Do not share commissions with unregistered persons. Anyone who's not FINRA registered cannot receive any type of transaction-based compensation, anything that depends on a sale. Now, registered reps who work at the same firm, they can sometimes form little groups and they share commissions with each other, especially people who work straight commission. They might split their commissions because when you work straight commission, your income can be all over the place. So this kind of levels it out. But if they're not registered, cannot get any compensation that depends on a transaction. So I've heard it described like this. It can't be, I'll give you the toaster if. It's got to be, I'll give you the toaster. Doing a private securities transaction, something you're not likely to do, but that's doing a transaction for a customer in something that your firm does not normally handle. Okay, proprietary mutual funds or limited partnership shares. And basically you have to do the trade through another firm. Before you can do that, you must notify your employer in writing about the proposed transaction and your proposed role in it. If you're going to be compensated, must get prior written approval. Failing to give notice when required or get approval when required is a violation called selling away. It's an off-the-books transaction at the broker-dealer. Yes, because after all, your firm is responsible, right, for everything that you do. All right. Firms must also provide their balance sheet and net capital, right, which is our liquid net worth, to customers on request, and also receive a semi-annual update on the financial status of the firm. Right? People like to know that the firm they have all their money with is in good financial shape itself. The FINRA manual, right, a big old rule book, has to be kept at the branch office, and if a customer asks to see the FINRA manual, must be able to give them access to the manual, but giving the web address to finra.org is also acceptable. As long as they have access, FINRA sets the term access equals use. Okay, information received in a fiduciary capacity. Remember, as a fiduciary, someone who must put their client's interest or benefits interest ahead of their own at all times as a fiduciary. If there's information, they cannot use that to solicit any other customers. If there's a control relationship, for example, recommending a security that the rep owns or the firm has, must be disclosed, or recommending the securities of the parent company has to disclose the relationship. I think you'll find generally, if there's ever a conflict or potential for one, as long as it is disclosed and people can make informed decisions, regulators are generally okay with it. When they hide information, regulators have a problem. Now, as a broker-dealer firm cannot be paid for investment advice, right? That would be an investment advisor. That's a firm that receives compensation for providing advice or analysis on securities or managing a customer's money for them. Broker-dealer firms cannot charge for advice. They get a commission or a markup for executing orders. So if they give advice, the advice is free. They're paid on execution. Firms can, however, be duly registered as both a broker-dealer and an investment advisor, as long as they have both sets of registrations and they fully disclose to customers. Then they can charge a commission for executing trades and charge a fee for giving advice. Firms can also charge for clerical services too. Things that, well, basically, they take employees' time, and time is money, so they're allowed to charge reasonable fees for things like safekeeping of assets, for things like evaluating assets or providing a evaluation or a appraisal of them, for holding assets, for collecting interest and dividends on the customer's behalf. Now, firms don't usually charge that, right? It's a competitive world, but let's just say they're allowed to as long as they're reasonable. How do you know if it's reasonable? Just look at industry averages and not too up or down from that. All right, now FINRA's rules also say about record retention. How long do records have to be kept? Most records have to be kept for 3 years. They can be kept in any manner as long as they can be readily copied and printed. In case maybe a FINRA inspector knocks on the door, says we want to see your records. So they can keep it on paper. They can put it onto a microfilm, scan it onto a non-rewritable hard drive. But there are some exceptions for that. Written customer complaints, for example, must be kept on file for 4 years. The record suspicious activity and currency transaction reports, part of the anti-money laundering efforts, those have to be kept for 5 years. Customer account records, also principal designation records. That's who's the manager on duty, and trade blotters. Records of the orders that they took must be kept on file for 6 years. Then there are some documents, mainly they're the foundational documents that have to be kept for the life of the firm. In fact, it's actually life of firm plus 3 years. So even after they shut their doors and go out of business, someone's got to hold on to these for 3 years. So the ones, here's the way to remember them. Okay, you're going to think of them as the S for the stock certificate books, because that's the list of shareholders. P for the partnership agreement, if organized as a partnership. A for the articles of incorporation, if organized as a corporation. And M for the minute books of the board of directors meetings. Those have to be kept on file for the life of the firm. Just remember them as SPAM. Stock certificates, partnership agreements, article of incorporation, and minute books of the board meeting kept on file for life of firm plus 3 years. Because how long does SPAM stay on a shelf? Forever. How long do they have to keep these 4 kinds of records? Forever. All right. That is our FINRA rules here. Okay. There's the rules about from the MSRB, but since we do need to get on today because we do want to take the Mastery Exam 3, and I have to give you time to do so, as we're scheduled to complete in an hour's time. So you should get done in about an hour or so. So go ahead and open up your Past Perfect account. Log into Mastery Exam 3. Okay. So we'll take that in class together. All right, now what I'm going to suggest to you is all right, so far, right, I've been on camera, you've had your cameras off. But to make this more like the actual test, just to kind of get used to it, because actual tests are proctored. Proctored means monitored. Monitored means Big Brother is watching you. Okay, so someone, when you take your test, right, there's going to be someone watching you do it, right? This is a controlled environment, and they want to make sure people aren't cheating, right? Bringing in crib sheet notes or anything. So I'm gonna suggest you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but that you put your cameras on. I keep my camera off. Okay, just it was to kind of simulate the actual testing experience. Okay, do you still need a moment or two time to get to your Mastery Exam 3? Or are you already ready? Okay, Ashley's thumbs up. Great, thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Karina. Okay, Amy got a virtual thumbs up. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Kimberly. Let's see who else. Let's see, Colby, Janae, Alicia. Okay, Alicia got it. Okay. So I think that's Colby and Janae. Do you need another moment, by the way? Okay, if you can, just so I know your status. Thanks, Colby. All right, Janae, are you good to go, or do you need a moment? Thumbs up. Oh, you need another week. Okay. Listen, no worries about it. Like I said, this is all practice environment. Okay. All right. Okay. So as again, if you've taken it before, all good. I'll use your higher score. If you want to take it again, I'll use your higher score. Okay. So I'm going to suggest you, even if you've passed some of the things or like on some of the quizzes, keep taking practice exams, right? Because the way to pass this test is just to take practices over and over and over and over. Okay. And keep up with it because, you let it go too long, you start to forget. So like when I took my test, by the time I got to the last chapter of the book, I had forgotten everything from the first chapter. So circle back every once in a while. Keep the skills up to date. All right, let's go ahead and take our practice exams, or Mastery Exam 3, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, I'm going to keep the mic on, but the camera's off because Big Brother is watching you. And if you find a question that kind of stumps you a little bit, give it your best shot, right? It's all practice. But, maybe make a note of that question or copy it if you can, copy and paste it if you can. Bring it up later at another time, right? Or email it to me. And, I can email you back and talk to you a little bit